guys that were legendary in my eyes. They were the Alex Rodriguez's of my life. And they got on their knees to coach me when they had already achieved that level of success. I see younger wrestlers who presumably idolized my generation. And I now see the youngest generation of the people that are coming into this sport, and they have no idea the ride they're about to take. I see parents that never once put on wrestling shoes but wrestle more matches than I ever have because they went through with their kids over and over again. In short, I see the face of our sport, and it's an amazing, amazing sport. And anybody who has a child that doesn't put him in this sport is just wasting their time. Now, I can tell you something. With egos in this room, everybody thinks that they walked in individually into this room and sat themselves. But we all know when we think about it, every single one of us was carried into this room tonight on somebody else's shoulders. So for the remaining time that I have with you, I get to tell you about the people that carried me into this room and continue to carry me on every single day and every single endeavor I do. Whether it's being a father, husband, businessman, coach, there are guys in this room that have carried me throughout my life. There's an ancient saying that in life we have no friends and we have no enemies, just teachers. Wrestling has been the single greatest teacher that I've ever had, and it's put me in the path of so many wonderful people. I want to begin with my parents. Although they never wrestled, they put the seed of courage into me and my brothers to put us on the path of wrestling. And while my parents, I don't know how to say this. My mom and dad, everybody says they have the greatest parents in the world. My parents were the smartest parents. They never once told us what to do. They just did it correctly and let us watch. If there was a Hall of Fame, Mom and Dad, you guys would be in it, I swear. If there was a Hall of Fame, my initial soiree into wrestling was early 70s. It was Clark Kresge, which ventured into Steve Shippo's, two coaches that were amazing. Everybody should have people like this. I truly believe that it was Clark Kresge's fault that I'm not up here accepting a nomination into the Hall of Fame into the NBA. But he got me into wrestling in about 7th grade. And while I could go on and on, having had Clark Kresge and Steve Shippo as his coaches, I can tell you I learned three very, very, very valuable lessons that I took throughout life and I use on it every day. One is, whatever endeavor you're doing, wrestling or otherwise, hold it dear to your heart. I learned that from you, Mr. Kresge. 2, master simplicity. Master the basics. That's you, Coach Shippo, over and over again. And 3, and probably the hardest lesson to learn, overcome your ego at a very young age. Those were the 3 lessons that I learned from Baldwin, and I carried it through college, and I carried it to this day. And other than calling you coach, the highest compliment I can pay you guys was each and every day that I walk into the teeth of the dog wrestling room, I'm fooling myself, because I know you 2 guys are carrying me in on your shoulders. You guys are coaching that team. There's an old saying, you don't teach your son, you teach your son's son. You guys are coaching that team. Thank you very much, guys. On a lighter note, and this one I'm going to leave up to the audience because I have Dale's permission to tell this story. I had the 2 most significant conversations in my life with the next guy I'm going to tell you. Now, Dale, you know he gave you permission to say this, and I'm going to leave it out there. It's either the W York or the AC from New York. All right? Like the AC from Iowa. My senior year in high school, I received a telephone call, and this is what verbatim, you guys make the decision yourself. Hi, this is Coach Dale Barr from the University of Michigan. We saw you wrestle in the Pittsburgh Classic. We'd like you to come out and take a look at our school. My response, that'd be great. What state is it in? True story, he's in the audience right now. He'll verify. Now, he told that story at 20 banquets about this dumb. Now, I went out there and he offered me a scholarship. So, was it the dumb New Yorker or the hayseed Iowa guy who offered him a scholarship? That was the first conversation. The second conversation I had with Dale, and we didn't talk about this. I was at Dale's induction into the Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa 2 weeks ago, and I didn't tell you this, but he paid me the highest compliment other than calling me dad that I've ever got. Dale took me aside at a football game or some sort of function in Michigan a couple of years ago, and he told me that I was one of the best recruits that he ever brought into the University of Michigan. And this is the gentleman who coached for 20 years, Olympic champions, world champions, NCAA champions, and I wasn't anywhere near the class of wrestlers. He told me I was one of the best recruits, and he nearly brought me to tears. Dale, 2 things I learned from you that I've taken through life. Be honest in your words, and be sincere in your actions. Because you had a lot of tough decisions to make over those years. And you were honest in everything you did, and you were sincere in your actions. And I've taken that lesson through me, and I thank you very much. My stay at the Michigan Wrestling Room for 5 years was an education among itself. I was surrounded by some of the most phenomenal athletes at the time in the early 80s. The first person I ever met at the school went on to be the dog-faced gremlin, who was a professional wrestler. His brother was the next person I met and lived with for 4 years. He's here today. His name is Scott Steiner. He's a professional wrestler. Unfortunately, I checked with my legal team, and the statute of limitations bars me from telling any stories about Scott for another 6 months, and we're good. Right? We will be telling stories later at the bar, but I can't do it publicly. My workout partner was Joe McFarland, the head coach. He was for 5 years. He kicked my butt. And every weight class he went, I had to go one above. Right next to him, John Fisher came in, and I had life lessons. I had life lessons in that room. I will tell all the people from Michigan that are here, because it just, my heart is just, you guys can't believe what it means for you guys to fly out here to see me. I do have to tell you about 2 coaches that I had, and without them, my life would have never been the same. Steve Frazier, who should have been here today, but he had some lame excuse. He's the Olympic coach. He was an Olympic champion in 1984. He had to qualify somebody for the Olympics this summer in China, and he couldn't make it, but he was very sorry. Steve Frazier was the toughest, I think collectively, the University of Michigan wrestlers here will say, the toughest person that ever walked the planet. And Steve Frazier did not distinguish between whether you were a 126-pounder or a 200-pounder while he was training to wrestle for the Olympics in 200. I learned from Steve Frazier to stay in the moment, because if you don't, you're going to get your butt kicked. And I learned, and Teeth of the Dog, if things are starting to sound familiar, I told you I never had an original idea in the last 40 years. Right? This is all from these guys. Frazier taught us that the secret to success is just to keep showing up, and the solution to every problem, work harder. Every single problem, work harder. So I wish Frazier was here. I know he's going to hear this. Frazier, without you, I wouldn't be me. The second person that was coaching me, and this one it might be getting a little hot in here, so I might tear up. Mark Shirella came into the room when I was a sophomore or junior, and he came in tail with, one of you Suffolk guys remember, Matt Savage, came in tow with him. And it was like a surreal day when I met Mark Shirella, because his big giant portrait was on the room, and I didn't know who Mark was. I had no idea he ever won the Nationals 3 times. He was the head coach at Las Vegas. He walked in and said, this practice is going to last 53 minutes. Second thing he says is, if you get hurt, get your ass off the mat, because we're not going to be stopping. It was the only practice I ever went through at anything where my shirt was actually beating after the practice. Mark, I can go on and on. You know, I've told you publicly and privately what you've meant to me in my life, but I can tell you now, because of this honor, I really truly have to focus what you meant to me, and I can tell you definitively, I have met countless amount of people who have achieved success. You are the single person in my life who taught me how to handle success the correct way. Generosity, honesty, always being there. I can't ever, ever thank you enough, Mark. And you know how much I mean to you. And just coming here tonight tells me that you're proud of my life. And nothing makes me more proud. Thank you very much. I just want to end on two things. This is clearly the most rewarding sport, and it's the most demanding sport. Last week, I was with Dan Gable, who is a dear friend of mine now. I was in Waterloo, Iowa with Dan Gable and Mike Amin for Dale Barr's induction. And Gable asked me to deliver this message today. He didn't want to upstage him. He was going to come. He didn't want to upstage Rob Cole. So he said to deliver this message. This is verbatim. Wrestling isn't for everybody, but it should be. Yeah.